Welcome back to the High Value Man podcast. I am your host, Eston Swaby. Today we are going to talk about a topic that is very deep, right? Today I'm going to share layers of my own story, right? Today, I had a whole episode planned, but today when I woke up and I was going to hit record, I felt as if that's not what I should be talking about, right? So today I have a really unplanned episode. I have no idea like where this is going. I'm just gonna hit record and just start talking, right? And I'm really excited for you to be here. Just reminding you to please subscribe, please like and share this episode to someone that you think that will need to hear this message. Right? I want to start off by saying that your worth is not tied to someone else's opinion of you. Your worth, your self-worth, who you are, your identity is not tied to your story. It's not your worth, your identity is not tied to the size of your bank account or your relationship that you're in or anything external, but your worth is internal, right? It's you are worthy just because of. You are not worthy because of how much money you have. You are not worthy because of your successes or your educational background. You are just worthy. God made you worthy. And so many of us as men, we attach our worth to what we have. We attach our worth to our relationship, right? We attach our worth to our bank account, and so we chase after success because we think that the more we have, the more worthy we are, right? And many of us, we try to please others, right? We try to be liked, we try to be accepted, we seek after validation, right? Because of our self-worth, because of how we see ourselves, right? But where's this coming from? Why do we as men, we chase after success in order to feel good about ourselves? Why do we attach our worth to what we have? I believe that this is coming from our childhood. Many of us, we have childhood wounds. We have things, unresolved issues from in our past that we haven't resolved, right? And so now it's showing up in our different areas of our life. It's showing up in our relationships. It's showing up in our career without us even realizing that it is. I've talked to so many men who were successful, and not only talked to, but I've read stories of many men who have been successful at what they do, giants in their industry, right? But the reason why they were chasing after that success, right, was because of their self-worth, because of unresolved issues, right? And so this is where I'm going to go back into my own story, right? So I remember for most of my life, I was rejected. For most of my life, I was told that I was not good enough, and I was made to feel as if I was not good enough, that I could never do anything wrong. I remember being around persons that I respected, loved, persons that I saw as my friend, right? And the way that they would, it's like the way that they would treat me when I made a mistake, the things that they would say to me when I made a mistake, are because I could not do something as perfectly as them, or I didn't know how to do something, right? And so the different stories that I've heard over the years, right, starting back from when I was a child, it made me feel as if I was not good enough, as if I was not worthy, right? And I had this unworthiness wound, and this was coming from my mother, right? When I started to peel the layers, because over the years I've been like working on my own self, right? And when I started to peel the different layers go deeper and deeper, I realized that this unworthiness, at the core of this unworthiness, at the core of me not feeling as if I was good enough, was coming from my mother. For most of my life, my mother was not really there. One of my first memory of my mother was me and my mother in an argument with my father, right? And I remember I was about like 3-4 years old at that time. I'm not even sure, but I know I was young, right? And I remember seeing my father hitting my mother, right? This was at that time my father had a lot of different issues, right? But so it's not the man that he is now, right? My father is a much better man now, right? But I remember seeing my father hitting my mother. I remember seeing the anger in his face, seeing how angry he was, and I heard the shouting and all of those things, right? And I saw my father hit my mother. The next thing that I saw was my mother walking away crying. Right, I remember standing at the doorway, right, seeing all of that happening and seeing my mother walking away crying with her head down, right? And I remember thinking to myself, what did my mother do to deserve this? What could have happened that caused this? And that's like, I don't remember my mother really being in my life from that moment. For most of my life, all of my memories of my mother is my mother not being in my life. Right? All of my memories of my mother growing up was me having to visit my mother. So recently I talked to my mother and she told me that she was always there, but there was a lot of different issues, right? And she started to tell me that different issues between her and my mother and my father. But as a child, I didn't know all of that. The only thing that I knew was that my mother wasn't there. And so I grew up with that tone, why doesn't my mother love me? Why couldn't my mother love me? Maybe it's because I'm not good enough. Maybe it's because there's something wrong with me. Why my mother couldn't love me. Why she wasn't there for me. Right? That is the story that I grew up with. That I'm unlovable. That everyone who comes into my life, everyone who tells me that they love me, they're eventually going to leave. And so because I had that belief, that internal belief, that deep-seated belief that I was not worthy of love, that no one loves me, that anyone who comes into my life and tells me that they love me, they are eventually going to leave. And so I started to create that. And so I would go into one relationship and that person would tell me that they love me and then they would leave. Right? And that happened for most of my teenage years and early adulthood, right? I would get into a relationship and soon after that relationship would end, right? And what that did, that reinforced the belief that I'm unlovable, that I'm not worthy of being loved, that something is wrong with me, right? And so when I get into a relationship, I would expect that person to leave, especially when I heard the word "I love you." When I heard the word "I love you," when the person that I was dating said "I love you," what I heard was "I'm going to leave you." The person would say, I love you, but what I heard was, I'm going to leave you. Because of that reinforced belief that I was not worthy of being loved. That there's something that is wrong with me. So I expected persons to leave me. And so, like, when that conversation comes up of I love you, that's when the relationship, like, all the relationships start going down. Right? Because at the back of my mind, this person is going to leave me. I don't want you to leave me. So I'm going to try my very best to make sure that you don't leave me. Right? And one of the things that I started to do, because when you have an unworthiness in one area, it also shows up in another area. Right? Because I did not believe that I was good enough and I was not worthy of. I started to believe that I was not worthy of success also. And also because of different father issues and so forth, right? And so what I started to do was I started to chase after validation. I started to chase after a person's approval. I wanted to be approved. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be validated. And so I would chase after that validation. I would chase after that approval. Chase after persons to like me. If you did not like me, then that means that I was not good enough. And so I would try to people please, right? Do things, even if I did not want to do it, I would do things just so that I could be accepted. Right? If other person didn't think I was good enough, then I didn't think that I was good enough. If other person didn't think I could do it, then I thought that I could not do it. My identity was based off other person's opinion of me. Right? My self-worth was based off things external. And so this validation, or seeking after validation, that I thought that in the more I have, or the more money I have, then the more worthy and good enough than I am. The more success I have, then I'll be worthy, and I'll be approved. I'll get other person's approval, the validation, and so forth. So that's what I chase after. Right? It didn't matter what I was doing. I was very competitive. I was very competitive in Bible study. I was very competitive in just about every area. And even when, like, other persons said that, Eston, you are good, right? You are one of the best. I never saw myself as one of the best. I always thought that I needed to do more to prove myself. Right? And that's one of the things that I've realized is that a lot of us as high achievers, right? A lot of us who are chasing after success, right? The reason why we chase after success is because of what we think that it will give us. That love, that validation, that approval. And so we chase after it. Right? Not realizing that our worth is internal. Our worth is not based off things external. Right? And so that's one layer, right? The unworthiness that came from my relationship with my mother early on in my life. And another thing that happened throughout my childhood was that was a lot of rejection, right? Even at school, I was rejected. I remember even like every manga season, right? What me and one of my friend would pick mangas, right, and we sell mangas at our school, at our primary school. And one of the things that I remember is that whenever, it didn't matter like how many mangas he had, right? As soon as he reached on the school compound, like persons would start coming and buying mangoes from him. He had friends who were helping him to sell mangoes and so forth, right? Right. So he was basically selling off by break time. But I was there and I was struggling to sell a few mangoes, right? And that led me to feel rejected. It caused me to feel rejected, to feel as if I was not good enough, that there's something that is wrong with me. Like, both of us have mangoes, both of us load the mangoes, cause we'd go to mango bush together, right? So both of us have the same mangoes, but why is it that he is selling off his mangoes and I'm here struggling to sell mine? Why does he have friends or people that are helping him and I don't? Right? So can you see the different layers of unworthiness and the feeling of rejection, that I was not good enough, that all of that's showing up, right? So at school, primary school, felt rejected, not good enough. In high school was the same thing. Different throughout high school, dealing with a lot of rejection. Work, when I started to work, that was the same thing. So for throughout my life, there are times when I felt rejected. There are times when I felt as if I was not good enough, that I was not worthy of being loved, worthy of being validated, or I'm not approved, and that led to people pleasing. That led to like different areas of my life just not going the way that I wanted it to. Find messed up finances, always getting into financial debt. As soon as I was out, as soon as I was out of one debt, I would be back in another one. Because I felt unworthy of having money. In relationship, I would get in one relationship after another. As soon as I started hearing I love you, as soon as I saw someone showing me love and affection, I started to like hold on tight because I was afraid of losing that person. In business, it's the same thing. That unworthiness, like, who's going to buy from me? And who is going to buy from me? I'm not good enough. No one will ever want to work with me. And so the reason why I share all of that is because our belief about yourself, and maybe you feel as if you are not worthy, you are not good enough, it's going to show up. It's going to either cause you to play the victim and not go after your dreams, right? Keep sabotaging yourself. You keep you keep starting stuff, and then soon after you quit. Like you're on this roller coaster, right? You launch a project full of energy, right? You are going after it, and then a few weeks later, you just don't have any more interest in it, right? Shiny object syndrome, right? Either you'll sabotage yourself, or you'll become very successful. But the reason why you are successful is because of that unworthiness, that belief that you are not good enough. And so what I want to empower you today is to start looking at the different layers, right? Looking at the different things that happen to you, right? And I want to encourage you to start working on yourself, right? Get the support that you need. One of the best investment that I made in myself was I hired coaches, I hired counselors, persons. I got in rooms where I could get the support that I needed, right? And one of the things that I've noticed is that the different situations in our life, sometimes God will cause different things to happen in our lives, is because He wants us to start working on ourselves. He wants us to identify those areas that we need to work on. So sometimes we get into financial difficulties because God wants us to start looking at our finances and looking at our money beliefs. Right? We'll have relationship issues, and what that will bring up is our own different wounds. Like, okay, why is it that you're afraid of confrontation? Why is it that whenever an argument comes up, you are afraid of having that difficult conversation? You're afraid of talking about. Why is it that you are afraid of even talking about your own emotions, your own feelings? Right? Why is it that you are overworking? Like, you're always working. You're always chasing after something. Right? So what I want you to do today is to really start looking at your story and own your story. Right? Talk about it. Sometimes they talk about the things that happened to you, because that's one of the things that helped me to heal, was by talking about it. Also, changing my own perspective. And sometimes changing your own perspective, it starts with you having that difficult conversation. Like having that conversation with my mother about things that happened. It was very difficult. Right? It was a very difficult conversation, but it was a conversation that I needed. Because what that allowed me to do was start shifting my perspective. I started to see things different. Because as a child, I'm going to process things that happen a certain way. Because I'm a child, I don't have the skills, the knowledge, expertise to really process it the right way that I should. Right? And so I'm going to create beliefs about myself. I'm going to create belief about my world. I'm going to create belief about the people in my world based on my own perspective. And so sometimes we just need to have that difficult conversation so that we can start seeing things differently. And one of the things that led to me having that conversation with my mother was a cousin that I had said something to me that really hurt me. I remember I have a cousin that sent a message saying, "Hey, you see how your mother is taking care of my son," and like she was saying that she wasn't there for you, she didn't take care of you guys, but she's here taking care of my son. Right? And that hurt. Remember, I had issues that I was trying to work through. Right? And it was in that moment I realized that there are different layers that I haven't even started working on. I started to realize one of the reasons why because I struggle to talk to my mother. Like, me and my mother, we always have a good relationship, right? But for some reason, I just could not, like, call her the way that I wanted to call her, right? It was always a struggle, right? And I did not understand why there was this struggle. And what my cousin said to me, it opened the doorway for me to start having those conversations, starting with myself, right? And then having that conversation with my mother. And so sometimes you just need to have, as men, we just need to have that courage to start having those conversations with ourselves, start having those conversations with the man in the mirror, start having that conversation with our loved ones, right? And yes, it's okay for you to chase after success, but I want to encourage you to chase after purpose more. Because when you chase after your purpose, then the money will come, and you'll feel fulfilled. One of the reasons why a lot of men feel empty, feel frustrated, feel unfulfilled is because they've been chasing after the wrong thing. They've been chasing after the money instead of chasing after their purpose. The Bible said that your gift shall make room for you. So when you chase after your purpose, chase after the reason why you are here, then the money will come by you using your gifts. Right? So this episode, I just wanted to just hit record and just share a little bit about my story, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so this is one of the reasons why I want to work with men, right, to heal and to start align their world, their life with their purpose, right? Start shifting their beliefs about themselves. Start mastering their emotions. Right? And so, if you found value in this episode, I want to encourage you to hit subscribe. Subscribe to this episode. Also, share this episode with someone you think that may need to hear something that I said today. Right? And I just want to leave you with this, that your worth is not tied to the size of your bank account. Your worth is not tied to your relationships, your friendships, your accomplishments, all of those things, because it's when you tie your worth to these things, you will always be searching for that next thing. You'll never be satisfied or comfortable where you are at or with what you have. You'll always be chasing after that next thing in order for you to feel good enough, in order for you to feel worthy. It's time for you to stop chasing after the material and start chasing after your purpose. Thank you for listening to this episode. See you and catch you on the next one.